What's going on, everyone? So I've got a pretty gnarly Satin Pothos Epipremnum aureum Satin variety here. It's not, I wouldn't say it's rare, but it's definitely harder to find. So I want more of it, right? I don't want to go buy these. I want more of it. And how am I going to do it? Well, we're going to propagate it. So let's go ahead and get into it. So Pothos has a tendency to vine, which is why we love growing it so much. You can get Pothos plants to vine absolutely insane, especially if you grow them for a long time. But we don't want necessarily to just have one plant that's vining like crazy. I want a lot of plants. So what I'm going to do is come through and we'll cut one of these so it's a bit shorter. So these are already reaching well to the ground. This particular one, you can see a little bit deficient down here, not having the best time, very, very light. So we're gonna prune that one off just as a matter of care, but we don't wanna clone from that because that would be obviously just not healthy. You wanna clone from a healthier area. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come through, this looks like a good one to me. We're gonna want one that's got at least 4, 5, 6, enough leaves that we can actually propagate, and we're gonna see how to do that. So I'm gonna come through, we'll clip right here, show you that, boom. Now we have one, two, we have a decent amount of these. Let's take them over to the propagation station. So here we have our cutting of our Satin Pothos. Now, a lot of people will just dump the end here, this is the tip that we cut, into the water, which technically could work. But what you wanna do is you actually don't wanna do that at all. You want to cut directly around these leaves. So here's one leaf right here. You're gonna cut right here, and you're gonna cut right here. This is wasted. Basically what you're doing when you're putting a whole cutting in is you're saying to the plant, hey, take your water in from here and distribute it to this entire system. Rather than you've got your leaf, you've got your eye, and then the roots are going to come out of right here, which is exactly what you want. Much more efficient. Your success rate's going to be a lot higher. So all you need to do then is come through and clip all of these off. Boom. Boom, all this stuff right here, wasted, not wasted per se, but not useful to grow. Boom, boom, oops, that one went away. We'll cut this guy, and these ones aren't usually the best to propagate from, but you can give it a try if you want. I'm gonna go ahead and give it a try, but I'm not really looking for so much success out of this one. I don't think it's gonna probably work, but that's fine. Let's collect our lost guy, and then we need to place them in our propagation station. So I got this on Amazon, it's pretty cool. Kind of has like a mad scientist vibe. And I'm just gonna plop these in. Boom, there's one. I'll do 2 per. There's 2. As far as where to place these in your actual home, when you're propagating, a good area is going to be anywhere that doesn't get too cold. So if it's winter, you're gonna wanna place it in an area that's at least 70-ish degrees. I would say that's probably gonna be your ideal zone because they don't wanna propagate. They don't wanna set roots very well if they're in a colder climate. That's just what I've noticed personally. So I'm just gonna trim these down a little bit just because for this particular propagation setup, it is a little hard to kind of slide these in there. Looks cool, but the bar that's going straight through the top isn't the most helpful. I'm gonna top off right here, top it off. As long as the cut sections are in the water, we're good to go. Top that off, and I think we're good over here. Looks kind of cool, doesn't it? So what you're waiting for basically is you're gonna wait a couple weeks. It's gonna take some time. And as far as changing out the water, just change it out as you remember. So at least once every couple days, I would say. Give it some fresh tap water. You don't want algae buildup. You don't want any sort of disease or anything like that. You don't want the water to basically run out of the dissolved oxygen that's within it. So you do wanna make sure and change the water out. But for now, we're gonna go ahead and put this away and wait for the propagation. I figured I might as well propagate a couple other varieties that I have here. Well, here we are in our epic houseplant corner. So you can see we've got our Satin Pothos sandwiched by a bird's nest fern. This is the Amy variety, and this is Calathea Freddy. And then up here we've got our, looks like our marble queen right there, one green queen right there. We have a button fern, and we have a baby ponytail palm that I got for like $5. Cute little guy. But we're gonna let these sit for a couple weeks, changing the water out. This is a good warm area of the house with a decent amount of light. So I think we're in good condition, and I'm really excited. And how cool does that look, guys? Looks like a science experiment, because it is. All right, it's been a couple weeks, guys. We've got our Pothos here, we've got our Pothos here. Let's take a look up close and see if they've developed any roots. So first is gonna be the 3-bulb cloning machine or propagation station. Let me flip it around for you. So this is all Satin Pothos or Scindapsus pictus. As you can see there's a root right there. There's roots developing right there. And this one has a baby root right there, which you might be able to see or might not. So let's pull one out and actually see how it's developing. I think the one I'd like to pull out would be this. Whoa, you know what? We're gonna have to be a little careful. You know what we might have to do is we may have to actually remove the barb that hangs these things, because if we don't do that, we're probably gonna have a hard time actually removing the plants. Everyone who's wondering where I got that, it's on Amazon. I'll put the link in the video description. So let's take a look at some roots up close. So this one has yet to develop anything. You can see there's nothing really there at all. Let me get a good close-up for you. There you go. Nothing there, nothing there. Sometimes cuttings don't take, like I said, I am still gonna leave that one in there. And you know what's interesting is I said sometimes the end pieces don't root that well, but look, we have a nice root here. And it's just one, so I'm gonna, of course, let this go a little bit longer. We're gonna change the water out, do all that fun stuff, but we have one here. I figured since we have all of them open, we might as well just go ahead and do the rest. So let's take a look now at our test tube setup to see how that one is going. All right, here are our test tubes. We've got our marble queen and our green queen in this one. And as you can see, there's already some solid roots developing. So let me pull each of these individually out and let's take a look. So this one, you can see the very long main root right there. And then there's also a small one right there. Hard to see sometimes, but very cool. And then this one this is a marble queen. We've got a small root right there. So it's working, it's definitely working. The water propagation definitely works. We'll put these back in. This one may even be ready to plant in, but I would like a bit more robust of a root system before I just transplant in. So we're gonna put that one back in the soil or in the water. And let's check on a couple of these other ones. Looks like one small root system in this one, which I'm not gonna pull out, it's not even worth looking at. And we've got a nice root system developing on this other marble queen right here. So it looks like that's just about how it develops. This one has nothing. Could have been due to how it was cut. It looks like I may have gone a little too close to the actual growing tip there, and that could have stunted it. We'll leave it in there just in case it develops, but not looking too promising there. But we have enough that we're gonna let it grow a little bit more, have a couple more roots come out, and then we'll go ahead and figure out how to transplant it into soil. Because a lot of people have said they've had success with water propagation as far as getting the roots, but they've had a hard time taking that propagated pothos, putting it in soil, and having it actually survive. So that's the part we're gonna go to next once these roots develop just a little bit more. Let's take a look at our little propagation station. So we have this one over here. Remember, this one has green queen, marble queen. This one has the Satin Pothos. Yeah, all Satin Pothos. I actually have one Monstera Adansonii right here. That is just a little bonus. We're not gonna check on that one today, maybe another episode. But let's go ahead and take a look at the roots. We'll talk about what worked, what didn't work, and then we'll talk about how to get it into a pot and maybe some things that you should avoid, maybe some adjustments I would make, because I did leave these a little bit longer than I would have liked. All right, the first one we'll look at are the test tubes. So let's remove from the test tubes themselves. This is a cool little propagation tool that I really enjoyed. I mean, it looks cool and it's pretty effective. So you can see already some of these have pretty intense root systems. This would be the green queen leaf, which I'm gonna dump water out, but trust me when I say this long one here is the green queen leaf, and you can see quite an extensive root system. This marble queen here was a little bit weak sauce. You can see it's there, but you know, it's not that extensive relative to how this green queen reacted. So this one has quite an extensive root system, so very happy about that. One's in the middle, not so hot. So this one kind of tried, like you can see, it's actually trying to develop a leaf underwater, which is not what we wanted. We wanted some roots, my friend. We did not want this leaf. But this entire little leaf node has started to develop underwater independent of a root structure. So this one probably not. You can see like maybe there's a little root node right about there that's happening, but not too optimistic about planting that one. And then this one starting what looks to be a leaf node and not a root node, but I mean, the way I try to tell is because there's this sort of like gelatinous, mucilaginous coating around, and that's like part of how the water is adhering to the root hairs. This one, that's not there, which leads me to believe it is much closer towards this type of structure, this new leaf, rather than a root. Unfortunately, those two didn't really work out, and you know, sometimes you just don't get an 100% hit rate. Let's check out these ones right here. This one, kind of black and rotting, that's a no-go. This one though, doing very, very well. It's putting out the combined roots and leaves, so we're gonna go ahead and try to pot that one up. And that's it for our test tubes. Now it's time to get over to the bulbed propagation station, which I'm a really big fan of that system. So that's really, really cool, and let's go ahead and take a look at that one. So with this one, you kind of have to disassemble it a little bit to get it out. It looks cool, but there are a little bit more moving parts. There's these little rubber pieces that you take off just so this thing can move freely. So let's remove those. And this was all satin pothos, or the Scindapsus pictus. So this one, it looks like, if you can look in the bulbs right now, it looks like the growth was a bit more prolific and the rooting was a bit more successful. So what I like to do here is I slide them out one by one, because it's hard to remove the cuttings unless you take this bar out. So let's go ahead and take a look at this one right here. As you can see, there's clearly some roots going on. And remember how earlier in the video I said you're probably not gonna have a lot of success with those end tips? This was the very end of the vine that we cut off. Looks like that one did root, so +1 on that for success rate. This one also rooted, so very excited about that. These are some big satin pothos leaves too. The only annoying part about this is where do you put the bulbs after you're done rooting them when you're checking on these? It's kind of annoying. So the Monstera adansonii is, look, actually, it is starting to root. If you can see that right there, there's a tiny node coming out. So I'm very excited about that because I've never grown that plant before. So we're gonna carefully set that aside for now, maybe do a video on it in the future. Check this out. Here you have one that just nothing at all happened. For one reason or another, this did not root at all. So we're gonna throw that over in the discard pile. This one did. And in fact, it rooted enough for both because there's 2 nice roots coming off of that one. So excited about that. That's bulb number 2. And our final bulb. We've got, looks like both. So here's what's interesting. It's like, I just don't understand sometimes why some of these root successfully and some of these do not. Now this is gonna be tricky because I think this is a bit jammed in there. So let me try to excavate one of these without damaging the roots if possible. Woo, close call. Close call, close call. So this one's out, another 2-rooter, really nice looking roots on a big leaf, so excited about that. This one is definitely rooting, but you can see it's like very early on in its life, and which, you know, I'm gonna pot this, and actually we're gonna talk about why this might even be the better one to pot. But it's definitely interesting that this one grew so little and the others grew so much. So now that we've actually checked out our bulbs, let's go ahead and talk about how we will actually get this into the pot that you see right here. All right, so let's go ahead and get into the potting action. Now, I'm gonna combine all of these. So you've got your satin, you've got your marble queen, and we have our one lonely green queen. And I'd really like to get all these in the same pot. So I'm gonna have to do a little bit of cramming. And one thing that I learned, and unfortunately, did not take advantage of for this video, is it's a little bit better if you transplant them into pots when the roots aren't quite so established and used to a hydroponic environment. You know, we're growing them in only water for the time being, and they're probably gonna be very used to that environment rather than going into soil when these roots are so established. Especially, you can see some of these truly more established ones with these two long roots coming out, they might have a little bit of a hard time adapting to soil. I think we'll do our best here and see what happens, but this might be a really good example of one. You can see these two small roots starting to form. This might be a really good point in which to transplant rather than waiting until this longer stage, but honestly, I think we'll be okay whichever one we go with. So I'm gonna go ahead and just get to it. We're gonna try to excavate. Actually, I'm gonna dump a little bit of this soil out for now, and then we're gonna arrange them in the pot, and then we're gonna put that soil back. And then we're gonna give it a heavy, heavy soak because you know, these are very used to growing in 100% water for the time being. So let's go ahead and do this. There shouldn't be any problem combining more than one type of pothos. I don't see the problem in that. And so we're gonna go ahead and just sort of lay these out a little bit, have them draping over the sides as much as we can. And then we'll start to fill in and just kind of have some fun with it, see what happens. I'm gonna try to have the root system sit right about there. So about maybe a centimeter or so, a quarter, third of an inch below the pot surface, and we're gonna bury it in from there. So it's gonna be interesting because we're gonna have to kind of do this piecemeal because we need these to stay in place once we're done, you know what I mean? Like we need these to actually stay there for a little bit. So I might have to make some use of some creative tools to have this happen. It's like, for example, we're gonna adhere that one there for now. And you know, the way you get these really nice and bunchy pothos plants that maybe you'll buy at a nursery is this is what they do. They jam pack a bunch into one pot, and that's how they get you. That's how they, you know, that's how they make you feel inadequate basically with how you grow your own pothos, because you know, it's a lot easier for a pothos to look bushy when there's 200 cuttings jammed into a little pot, right? So don't feel bad if, you know, you take some pothos cuttings and maybe they don't look as good. Part of that's just because you might not have the raw amount of cuttings that a nursery is jamming into a pot. So, you know, again, don't feel so bad about that. It's not the biggest of deals. I'm gonna have this green queen right here be the centerpiece. It's gonna just come in. We're gonna bury this one nice and deep because it has the longest root. Get in there with our little makeshift dibbler, our Sharpie here. Might even go pretty close to the bottom there. We'll see if we can get that in there. Gonna have to backfill that with soil now. So it is a bit of a kind of an architectural process, I guess you could say, of getting this stuff in there. But once we fill it up, really excited to see how this turns out, because I don't really know that too many people have done like pothos combo pots, which I don't understand why you wouldn't. I think it looks really cool, or at least has the potential to look really cool. So we're just gonna keep on doing this. And again, like I said, it may be better to transplant these in a little bit sooner after they start to take root. I actually just hit that root with my thumb. I just hit this root, and I hope I didn't like damage it to the point of it not coming back. But you know what? There are some casualties in our propagation techniques sometimes, so don't stress, guys. Remember, these are plants. They're pretty resilient overall as organisms, so don't be, you know, too stressed about this stuff. And again, this kind of looks a little weird, a little janky, but I'm trying to get these to trail, so I want them to be on the edge of the pot. That's where I want them to start their life, in this pot. And so there's not going to be too much action in the center. Rather, I'm going to have these all sort of hanging off the edges and working that way. And then we'll be able to kind of shore these up as we go. So let's go ahead and do that. So I've kind of filled in some gaps, added some support, and kind of pulled away at the edges and then filled in the sides here to kind of give this the support that it's probably used to from laying on the side of the glass. You can see we've got some nice ones sticking up, our green queen in the middle, and it does look sparse in the middle, but that's okay, because in the future what's going to happen is this plant is going to be probably hanging, and these are all going to be spilling over the sides, creating this nice multicolor, multi-variety pothos plant, all stemming from this one pot. When you're watering in a new pot, what I like to do is I'll take the shower on the hose, come through and just do a really brief water. And you see how it kind of pools a little bit and then it really starts to sink through? You're breaking basically the surface tension. Sometimes really dry soil doesn't retain moisture that well at the start. So you kind of wait a little bit, water and wait, water. That's what I call it. It's the 3 W's. Water, wait, water again. And so I'll do that. Boom, come through. Give this a really nice soak. We're just gonna let it fall through again. You can see it dissipating from the surface of the soil into the subsoil. And we're gonna do it one more time, and that should be enough to soak all of the soil all the way down. And these pothos cuttings are probably gonna like it slightly more moist than they maybe would normally because they're used to growing in that hydroponic environment. Now that's just conjecture. We'll see how they respond to that. Certainly not a botanical principle right there, but that's my hypothesis, and we're gonna see if that works. And I might actually support this one with a stake because it's quite long, but pretty much that is it. Well, there you have it, everyone. It's pretty simple. We will follow up. If you follow me on Instagram, you'll probably be able to see the updates to this. It does look a little funky right now because we have different leaves of different sizes, different varieties, and there's all sort of getting established. So we will follow up with this, but pretty effective technique for propagating pothos. I find that water cuttings work better than soil cuttings for me personally. Pothos actually is a great plant to just grow hydroponically. A lot of people don't talk about hydroponic houseplants, but that's for sure a thing. It's for sure something you can do, and maybe if we get some interest in the comments down below, I'll do something on that in the future. But anyways, we've got a bunch of different varieties in one pot, all propagated from plants that already existed, especially if you have like a more rare variety of a houseplant that you really want and you don't want to go drop another $50 on it or however much it costs. This can be a really effective way. Of course, not all plants propagate via water cuttings, but many of them do, and we'll do some future episodes on propagation. So if you have a particular plant you'd like to see me propagate, drop it in the comments and I'll do my best to get an episode out. But until next time, good luck in the garden, keep propagating, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace out.